Mr. Cafferty? Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, respectfully, I would highlight that my client at all points in time since I've met her has been truly remorseful for her conduct in this case. No question she was 100% wrong. She's not backsliding on that in any way, and she truly apologizes for her behavior. There's not a day that goes by that she does not think about Susan and about how her actions have affected their relationship. Judge, as the court's aware, my client is bipolar. I provided information, obviously. She was diagnosed in 1995 to apply for Social Security disability, which she did. And you know how hard it is to get disability from the government, at least the first time. But she was granted that disability and in such a bad position that she was not even allowed to get her own check. They had to have a payee, which they did. Her dad, Nick Simone, who had taken her down to Dr. Calabrese. And then later on, her daughter, Kim, was the payee. She currently gets, after her insurance is taken away from her Social Security, she gets $1,075. Prior to that, prior to 1995, and probably I was talking to her brother, Dr. Darrell, her disability probably was undiagnosed, and she probably got it sometime around when she was 20. She has 4 children that she basically raised a lot of the time as a single mom. And all 4 of those children are successful. None of them have criminal records, and they all were. Judge, she does have a little bit of a prior history from 1989 to 91 that were all, I don't want to say minor, but smaller theft offenses that occurred prior to her diagnosis for bipolar. She has not had any charges, no new charges for 34 years. She's obviously, as the court's aware, 74 years old. Judge, she does not work right now. She does supplement her income by selling items that she owns online, eBay and Craigslist and other selling facilities. Her living situation right now, she lives with her sister Lisa, who's here. I would point out the pre-sentence investigation does show, Judge, that my client's a low risk to reoffend, bipolar medication, and take it. If she's not taking it, she gets into a manic phase where she thinks that I can borrow $1 million and I can pay it back in 3 weeks, whatever the manic part of that bipolar is. Judge, in the back of the courtroom, I have, and these people, Your Honor, they're in support of Deborah, and they're not saying that Deborah is not guilty or a perfect person, okay? That's, I think, the important thing. They're disappointed in her behavior. I would point out that they apologized to Susan Detler and her family for what occurred. They're going to help her make sure that she stays on her medication and doesn't have these problems, because I think when she's on her medication, that these issues don't crop up. Okay. Your Honor, first, I'd like you to be heard to hear Dr. Darrell Simone. He's up from Georgia, where he practices as a physician.
Your Honor, I've been practicing medicine for over 41 years, and here's what I've got for you. In almost all likelihood, my sister has suffered from mental health issues for most of her adult life. Certainly, she's been on Social Security disability for the last 30 years, and the federal government has found fit that she does indeed suffer from mental illness. Most likely a bipolar disorder, which does not necessarily make you act rationally. It's certainly, at least to me, fortunately, I'm not privy to her medical records because we do have HIPAA. But I can say that what is very common for patients with this diagnosis is that they feel good, they go off their medications, and it's just an endless roller coaster cycle. So, in my considered opinion, complete sense for the court to mandate mental health treatment, it was most likely not really necessarily serve justice to incarcerate her, because I don't really believe she'll get the treatment that she really needs. And I really think that, again, this doesn't ever, it does not justify the behavior, but at least in my years of practice, it certainly explains it.
Thank you. Dickers, she is a friend of my client from the church. She can explain the relationship. She just has a couple words she'd like to say.
Thank you for your time, Your Honor.
Sure.
I just wanted to say that I've known Debbie even prior to church. She is a very loving soul, very caring, very compassionate woman. Want the best for Debbie. I can't see that incarceration is going to help her in any fashion. I agree with what the doctor had said about that she needs, the mental health, the psychological and psychiatric care that she should get. And I've known her to be a very upstanding and loving woman, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Orlandi, my client's younger sister, would like to say a few words.
Thank you for letting me speak about my sister Debbie. Moved into our house with us. She was pretty broken down, and she was going through a very difficult time with the divorce. And I just want to say that, Debbie's always taking care of people. This has just been her nature. She took care of us. We're 13 years apart. She took care of us when we were kids. She just always goes over and above just to try and sometimes to her own detriment, that she tries to take care and help people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you,
All
Judge.
right. Stondorfer, what do you want to tell me before I impose sentence?
Would you like her to stand up, Judge?
No, she can remain seated. That's all right.
Your Honor, I'm extremely upset that I put Susan in this position. I am deeply sorry for everything that I did. There isn't a day that goes by, like I told Kevin, that it doesn't bother me. The hate is so thick that it just, anything I've ever done, it just seems like it's minimal. I just want her to forgive me. I want that so bad. I don't want to be the person that she's looking at that did this to her. I'm not making excuses for what I did. I'm taking full responsibility. But I need this in my life with her. I hope that someday she can forgive me. We can at least be friends. I need to have her forgive me. I really do. I am so sorry that I even did this to her, that I put her in this position. Moving in together, we talk about so many different things, and now she just hates me, and I don't want that, and I feel that and not to make excuses again, that I think in a strange way, when I was off of my medication, I'm thinking I'm helping, and I guess I wasn't helping, and it made her feel horrible. It made her feel like, she couldn't trust me anymore. And that's just devastating to me that I don't have a relationship with her anymore. I'm so sorry. I don't know what else to say other than say I'm sorry a million times. And I know that's not going to make her change her mind or feel any better, but it's important for me, for her to know that I truly am. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I am. I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
All right, Ms. Tuttle.
Thank you, Your Honor. Victim Susan Dottler and her family are present in the courtroom today. She would request that her niece, Heidi DiVincenzo, be able to read a statement on her behalf.
In my aunt's words, I never imagined I would be the victim of identity theft, and certainly not at the hands of someone who was once my sister-in-law. It began when Deborah offered to help me with my taxes. Then, while pretending to support me during my divorce, a time when I was already fragile and vulnerable, Deborah Simone continued to steal my identity and charge more than $100,000 in my name without my knowledge for years. What began as her helping me refinance my home, since I was intimidated by online banking, turned into the exact nightmare that I feared. And it came from someone I thought was family. Deborah was not just helping me, she was destroying my financial stability. My perfect credit was ruined, my name was stained, I was left, and still am, fighting endless battles with creditors and credit bureaus forced to prove over and over again that I wasn't the one behind it. If it weren't for my family's help, I don't know how I would have survived it. Deborah went even as far as to open an email account in my name to intercept and get pictures of my mail from the United States Post Office to keep up with her lies. Once we confronted her, she canceled the United States Postal Service account to cover her tracks. As bad as the financial devastation has been, the betrayal has cut deeper. This wasn't a stranger, this was my family. My own brother ultimately divorced Deborah because of his actions and because of her prior criminal history. The divorce, too, brought pain and strain to our family. My brother with over $130,000 in credit card debt, 90% of which he was completely unaware of. Ruined his credit that was once nearly perfect and left him with almost a penny to his name. Another example of her fraud was found during my brother's divorce. My niece and nephew had to order tax returns directly from the IRS to prove my brother's income. In doing so, we learned she put over $250,000 of her business income accidentally under my brother's Social Security number in the years of 2023 and 2024. Part of their divorce, after she admitted what she had done, switch it back to her name with corrected 1099s. My brother has filed an IRS form 14029, identity theft, with the IRS for the fraudulent income as well as with PayPal. We are waiting on a conclusion for those. When her mugshot was posted publicly, strangers commented that she was, quote unquote, doing this for years. I could not believe she would do it to me. The emotional toll has been enormous. At 71 years old, living alone on a fixed income, all while keeping her own credit in good standing, while mine collapsed. Excuses, not apologies. Excuses, not accountability. Deborah Simone is a seasoned career con artist. This was not a mistake. This was not an accident. This was deliberate, calculated, and cruel. Do not let her fool you. Opening numerous credit cards and charging over $100,000 in debt. A period of incarceration is the only way to ensure she reflects on the harm she has caused to me, to my family, and very likely to others. I plead for restitution, for accountability, and for the court to give a sentence to ensure Deb Simone does not do this to another family member or anyone else ever again. Sincerely, Susan Donnell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. As the state has previously mentioned, there is a joint recommendation for community control sanctions in this case. This is a felony of the third degree that has no presumption either way for prison or community control. The basis for this recommendation is the defendant's criminal history is substantially older. It's over 30 years old. However, it is for similar offenses to what she has committed here. The state believes that she is an appropriate candidate for community control, but that there need to be some specific sanctions imposed and an element of punishment imposed here. The most troublesome factor that's present is that the relationship between the defendant and the victim is what facilitated the offense. Susan trusted the defendant. She trusted her with her finances. She trusted her with her personal information. She trusted her with her life. This was her sister-in-law. This is somebody who she relied on, and the defendant took advantage of that trust. She didn't take advantage of it once. She didn't take advantage of it twice. She did it repeatedly and continuously for over a decade. The defendant opened credit cards well exceeding the minimum amount alleged in the indictment of $7,500, but less than $150,000. This was a decade worth of charging her own purchases, her own business purchases, her own personal purchases to Miss Donnell, to somebody else that wasn't herself. It was impacting Susan's credit in a way that she had no idea. This wasn't a one-time manic act. This isn't something that she did in a moment of weakness. This is a repeated, deceptive decision over the course of a decade. The criminal justice system addresses rehabilitation, but it also provides for punishment for certain offenses. And this court imposed a period of local incarceration in addition to community control sanctions. There are 5 days of jail time credit that the defendant has already served. Thank you.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Ms. Dondorfer, your brother, the physician, indicates his belief that had an undiagnosed bipolar condition since you were around 20, which would be about 1971. 1989, it was a passing bad in which you were placed on probation. July 24th of 90, you got a forgery offense in Summit County, common plea. Would seem to indicate that it was a felony based on the one way or another. February of 91, there's a theft in Cuyahoga common pleas court, a year of probation. If, and everybody's, and I'm going to assume for the sake of this hearing that you do certainly suffer from a mental illness, whether it's bipolar or something different, whatever it is, okay? And so the question is, if it's bipolar, I'm to assume from what everybody says that when you are in a manic phase, you really can't control what you're doing. Therefore, in this 89 to 91 period, you had these 5 offenses, and then nothing for 34 years or 33 years until, well, that's not actually accurate either, because 08 is when this starts, and it starts slowly and it builds. And so that, to me, okay, I'm not a doctor, okay, but I've seen a lot of people in and out of this courtroom that suffer from severe mental illness, and some of them not so severe. A lot of them bipolar disorder. And a lot of them go through these wild swings of the manic phase, and then they come down from it, and they do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do. But that really doesn't explain this situation. This situation is much more calculated, much more detailed than just you're in a manic phase and you're out of control, because this builds. It starts in 08 and it keeps on going. It starts with one joint credit card. It becomes your use only. And I think that somehow you convince Susan that you should just keep this joint credit card and you use it and you'll pay it. But then this developed into the opening of other credit cards and checking accounts of somewhere around $120,000. There were the opening of post office boxes. There was the ability to see what mail was coming. And so this is very calculated. The anxiety she has in dealing with other people. I mean, a lot of this started because she was interested in refinancing and was somewhat afraid of the entire system she had to go through with all the electronic stuff, and turn to you for taxes, turn to you for everything financial. I view this as very, very calculated for a very long time and sophisticated enough to keep it secret from Susan until it all came crashing down. And then, of course, there was, as this went along, as it was discovered by Heidi and by others, there was this attempt to cover it and to minimize it. It was only a few $1,000s at the start, and then it rolled from there. It was like a rock going downhill. What may or may not have been done otherwise, other than your documented criminal history, is not the subject of this hearing, okay? It's about Susan, okay? So I don't know what, if anything else, is going to happen, and that doesn't concern me at this point. The focus of your statement, there were 2 things in your statement that you made here today that stuck out. One is that you said a number of times you were deeply sorry for what you did. At the beginning, you said that at the end, but most of the time in between, to have Susan forgive you. I found that the emphasis on that a little odd, okay? Because Susan can either forgive you or not forgive you today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, okay? But your need for her forgiveness seems to be vastly outweighed by your sincere apology to her. That's how I see it. you not only destroyed her financial situation, okay, but you maybe even more importantly destroyed her trust. I would bet that she's never going to trust anybody like that again. And I don't know how you repair that. No, if she forgives you, great. That was an odd focus. I'm going to place you on community control for 120 days in the Lake County Jail with credit for 5. You are to continue with your treatment. Any restitution?
Credit card companies, so
Contact with Ms. Dopp. All right, if you violate the terms of your community control, the state will file a motion to terminate. If I find you violated, then you face 36 months in prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good, Your Honor.
Is there anything else, Ms. Tuttle?
no, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Cafferty?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we're adjourned.